U.S.-Canada sour ties are not new. The neighbors got off on the wrong foot after President Trump returned to the White House for his second term. From calling former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau a governor to reiterating his annexation dreams during a White House meeting with current PM Mark Carney, Trump has kept tensions alive. But Carney was very clear: Canada is not for sale. And Trump didn't like it. Trump swallowed the bitter pill. But all hell broke loose after Canada released an anti-tariff advertisement featuring former Republican President Ronald Reagan promoting free trade. Trump described the advertisement as fake and even ended trade talks with Carney, which later led to the Canadian Prime Minister apologizing to Trump.
For months, we have stressed the importance of distinguishing things we can control and things we can't control. We can't control the trade policy of the United States. We recognize that that policy has fundamentally changed from the policy in the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s. And it's a situation where the United States has tariffs against every one of their trading partners to different degrees. And it's in that context that our officials, my colleagues, have been working with their American colleagues on detailed, constructive negotiations, discussions on specific transactions, specific sectors, steel, aluminum, and energy. And a lot of progress has been made. And we stand ready to pick up on that progress and build on that progress when the Americans are ready to have those discussions, because it will be for the benefit of workers in the United States, workers in Canada, and families in both of our countries. Now, what we can control, absolutely, is how we build here at home. And that's the focus of Budget 2025, generational investment here in Canada. And what we can also control, or at least heavily influence, is developing new partnerships and opportunities, including with the economic giants of Asia, which is the focus of this trip.
But a new development in America's backyard may irk the POTUS even more, as Canada is now reaching out to China, a threat to the U.S. that Trump refuses to acknowledge. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney arrived in China on January 14th for his first visit, meeting President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Qiang amid strained bilateral ties. Relations between the two countries soured after Canada arrested Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou in 2018, followed by retaliatory detentions and trade disputes. Experts say the visit signals a recalibration and a shift in tone as Ottawa looks to stabilize and improve relations with Beijing. Carney is in Beijing to recalibrate Canada's complex relationship with China, Foreign Minister Anita Anand said. She noted progress in talks on Chinese restrictions on Canadian canola exports and said Canada would continue discussions, including on human rights issues.
With the world's largest economies, including India, where we have agreed to start negotiations on a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, China, another one of the world's largest economies and Canada's second largest trading partner, is certainly high on the list of a country where we need to sit at the table and have a negotiation and ensure while we are doing that, that we are representing Canada's security interests and the interests of Canadians. As I said, that is a complex issue. It is a complex relationship, but Prime Minister Carney is here to recalibrate the Canada-China relationship, and we as a group of ministers are pleased to be joining him. The conversation has been productive. The negotiations are still continuing. We are here to represent all sectors of the Canadian economy, and the work continues over the next number of days. We are going to be, as I said, ensuring that all stressed sectors of the Canadian economy are brought into the negotiations and the conversation.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, on January 15th, hailed improving ties with China and President Xi Jinping's leadership during his first visit to the country, saying both sides were charting a new path for cooperation.
We're heartened by the leadership of President Xi Jinping and the speed with which our relationship has progressed. It sets the stage for these important discussions on a wide range of issues where we can be strategic partners, from energy to agriculture, to people-to-people ties, multilateralism and security. Our teams have worked hard, addressing trade irritants and creating platforms for new opportunities. I believe that together, we are bringing this relationship back toward where it should be.
The Canadian Prime Minister's visit is also important for China, which is seeking expanded export access, relief from trade barriers, and a political win by portraying Canada as correcting its past alignment with the U.S. Beijing sees this as an opportunity to loosen Canada's close alignment with Washington and is urging Ottawa to pursue strategic autonomy. Chinese state media argue that past tensions stem from Canada following U.S. policies toward China and warn that future alignment with Washington could undo efforts to repair ties.
If the Canadian side reflects on the root causes of the setbacks in bilateral relations over the past few years, the previous Justin Trudeau government's policies to contain China in lockstep with the United States, it will realize that it can avoid the same outcome by upholding its strategic autonomy in handling China-related issues. If Ottawa still chooses to subject its China policy to the will of Washington again in the future, it will only render its previous efforts to mend ties with Beijing in vain. Perhaps it was the heavy price paid for blindly following the US and imposing high tariffs on China that awakened Ottawa's sense of strategic autonomy.
Carney's visit could also be crucial for China as it slowly but steadily advances its interests in the Arctic, with Canada potentially serving as a starting point, especially as Trump eyes Greenland over national security. Carney's visit to China appears to be irking Trump. As the POTUS said, he doesn't need Canada as much as Canada needs the U.S.
Mr. President, when you renegotiate USMCA, how is that going to help auto workers like Ford?
I don't even think about USMCA. You know, I want to see Canada and Mexico do well, but the problem is we don't need their product. You know, we don't need cars made in Canada. We don't need cars made in Mexico. We want to make them here. And that's what's happening. Everybody's moving here. From Canada, they're coming here. From Mexico, from Japan, from Germany, from all over the world, they're coming here. They're opening up their plants. Bill is lucky because he's had a lot here, but when he doesn't have it here, he's moving here. They're doing big expansions for it. But they're all doing great. The car industry is exciting. And to be honest with you, Bill, every industry is exciting.
Although Canada has long been one of the United States' closest allies, ties have deteriorated since Donald Trump returned to the White House. Trump has imposed a sweeping 35% tariff on Canadian goods, along with additional levies on steel, aluminium, and lumber, and has repeatedly suggested making Canada the 51st U.S. state. Let's look back at the White House meeting between the two leaders, when Carney burst Trump's bubble on annexing Canada and turning it into the 51st U.S. state.
Takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, you know, as a real estate developer, you know, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person. But when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, you know, I do feel it's much better for Canada. But we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it.
Well, if I may,
as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. We have done that in the past. And part of that, as the president just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership. And I'll say this as well, that the president has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
True. And they have, I must say, Canada is stepping up the military participation because Mark knew, they were low and now they're stepping it up. And that's a very important thing. But never say never. Never say never.